guessing at that point, but perhaps they have the radios hooked to them, so maybe they know a lot more than they're telling us. But that they yelled out to the crowd, and again, the crowd that's standing around here, these are all volunteers for the race, mostly the medical personnel, and they were yelling out, "There's going to be a water cannon, don't be alarmed." Well, as soon as we heard the blast go off, a third, you saw a lot of people starting heading out. They were heading down Boylston, kind of going that way toward the church.
So, I just don't remember, Jonathan. I just don't remember. Maybe, you know, we've covered a lot of these, both of us at various times, these terrible tragedies. I remember them using a water cannon with people still around, unless there's a real problem and they want to check out a device in a hurry.
Well, I got to say, Jack, they were very good about clearing people out of the area, really getting them far back in a big hurry. So some of these devices that they were looking for, or any of them, they would clear people back in a hurry. So if they brought the water cannon, they had people far enough back that I think that they felt safe enough to go ahead and spray it down. But again, you're looking at live pictures now. These are all the EMS that are coming out of the tent, and they're just going to stage here, I guess, have a little meeting and kind of figure out what's next. But it looks as though they got most of all of the people who have injured. Again, 2 dead, 22 injured, and the injured now have been transported to the hospital. So this looks like a debrief of some kind, or maybe a plan of attack for what's next.
Sure, and we do know, Jonathan, from our Jim Armstrong, who's nearby where you are, he's been moved over to the Clarendon Street area. Boston police trying to continue to move our crews out of the Copley Square area. Because of that fear, they're not entirely sure that the scene is safe as of yet. They can't be sure of that. And as you see the officers meeting right here, as you said, Boston police confirmed 2 dead, 22 injured. The Fairmont Copley Plaza Hotel is in lockdown. We've just received word that Emerson College is in lockdown. Of course, that campus goes from Tremont Street and up around the corner throughout the theater district. We do know, because the Boston Marathon is the most famous marathon in the world and has a world audience, we do know the president has been notified of this incident. A spokesman from the White House saying the administration is in contact with all state and local authorities, and the president's directed the administration to provide whatever assistance is necessary in the investigation and response.
Our John Keller is at the State House. There may be a little delay in this as we get to him, but let's see what he has found out.
Hold on, John. John, go.
We arrived at the State House about 15 to 20 minutes ago. It is locked up tight. That's not surprising. The state is normally closed for the Patriots' Day holiday. We were able to speak with Brendan Rowe, Governor is at his home in Milton receiving evacuation. A number of people stopped us to ask us what we knew. No signs of panic, however. People are staying calm, but are anxious to find out more about what went on at the marathon finish line this afternoon. As soon as we learn more about a potential briefing from the governor or other state public safety officials, we'll check. Right now, live from Beacon Hill, I'm John Keller.
Let's go over a couple of things so you have the very latest information. It has not been confirmed that this is any form of a bomb or a terrorist act, period. No confirmation at all. In fact, they're going out of their way to say treat this as a couple of explosions. They don't know exactly what happened. Do know for sure that about 2:45, 2:50 today, there were 2 explosions. We had them on our tape. You've seen them many times already. One was right line of the Boston Marathon, right across the street from the stands that are there at the Marathon Sports, and that was the first explosion. We now know at least 2 dead, 23 injured from that and other explosion, which happened about 12, 15 seconds later down toward Mass Ave. We also caught that on our tapes. Again, we have crews been covering this since very early this morning, the Boston Marathon. It was a glorious day today. A lot of runners were still out on the course. The premier runners and the elite runners had all finished, as well as those who were doing the, typical 4 hours, 3 hours, etc. But these are the people who were in the vicinity at about 5 hours into the race.
2:50 p.m. Explosions happened consecutively within about 20 seconds of each other, and you can see, if you're just word of this, look at
that we've spoken to so far have not said what they believe this is. Withholding comment for the time.
They are still sweeping the air.
Officers, bomb squad go to the scene. The other point I would point out, the other issues, there are part of this story we're seeing still. I'm looking at three-headed area right now, going down Tom Ave. You have to keep in mind that there are all these people who are hurting after a marathon just from the physical exhaustion. So there have to have those people as well.
Kelly is has been moved as they continue on. If there's anything else they have to.
News Center Kimberly booked on scene on the medical scene.
What's going on here? There are massive amounts of ambulances that one by one and putting them off. Now we have no, we might have a line with this matter or it's right now. You're feeling uncertain about what happened on Monday, uncertain after 9/11, and there's so many threats, it only adds to everyone's feeling like it's not safe. So they're going to come in, they'll see if there's anything we need to be worried about, and when they can, I'm sure they'll let us back in.
Jack Harper, are you still on the phone?
I am, Ed.
There's a lot of activity right in the front of the building there. Has it increased in its intensity?
Well, the fire department just arrived. I assume that's just, it looks like it is ladder 3, I believe. I assume that's just part, we're assuming here. And now we have 2 fire vehicles here also. Engine 10 has arrived in front. So I assume they're just here as part of the standby team if something were to happen, were to be found or what have you. But we don't know what they have in there, whether they have anything. But we certainly know that someone caused some sort of or by making a call, or it appears making a call. And just what you're seeing in front of you now, certainly going to mess things up for a while. That's for sure.
You know, Jack, it's interesting because as of hours ago, when that and it was imminent, conflicting report whether or not the suspect was that there is no arrest at this hour. There's no who are angry about what's happened on Monday could potentially want to cause even more harm to the individual who is suspect. You add up all those dots and it makes you wonder, could this be connected to that? Could the fact that there were reports of a possible arrest be connected to this code red at the courthouse? I would
certainly think it probably is, at least inherently, that's for sure. After Monday, Kelly, thing changed. We went to post 9/11, and here it's more local, more in our face than ever. So I'm sure that whatever they're dealing with, nothing is going to be taken lightly for a while. That's for sure. So.
The presence on the waterfront behind the courthouse, Jack, is sizable. Just the number of boats in the water, and they're focused. They're clearly focused on the area in front of the building, maybe in the water on the edge, or the back end of the building, whatever. But they are focused in that little perimeter right there.
You don't see anything other than the boat, correct, though?
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah, the dogs, by the way, the one dog was here for a while, but has been pretty much standard procedure on many days, and certainly on daylight. We found the officer, he's an officer I've known for years, and so that was pretty much standard procedure. But to bring in all this, and then the second dog, and the third dog, and what have you, obviously isn't. But not totally unusual to have the dogs out here. It's part of their usual security.
Has the crowd increased, or is it too difficult to tell because we know the building was evacuated, so obviously there's going to be additional crowds to the spectators who are lining the streets. But can you give us a sense of has that changed dramatically?
The crowd is a little less, I think, because it's pushed back so far, but it's so spread out, I don't know. One of the defense attorney who's been around here a long time just told me he saw 2 federal judges go back in the back of the building, so that, and he says, come on. So apparently maybe things aren't as dire as the rest of us are led to believe by what we're seeing, or maybe they've been told it's okay for them, but whatever. 2 judges have gone back in at the courthouse.
Well, that might address, Jack, exactly what you and Kelly were talking about, that there is such a heightened sense of security right now, and that anything is going to be responded to in the strongest of forces. So, yeah, you could be exactly right. That could be exactly what we're witnessing.
In fact, now I believe I see judge going in the front there, another judge going in. So wasn't that the judge? Is that the judge who just went in? Judge Wolf just going back in, yes. So Judge Wolf is going back in the courthouse. So that would seem to indicate that at least he's been told it's okay to go back. So that's the beginning of returning to normal figure. We'll find out.
All right, News Center 5's Jack Harper and Kelly Tuthill are both on the ground there right by the federal courthouse, and then they will be going to their reporting stations and trying to gather the information. It seems that moment of fear or concern, that's a better word, concern.
A glimpse of and bringing someone that did this.
And we're coming up on less than 2 hours to go until we hear from the FBI. Maybe as we continue to look at these pictures and kind of try to parse out what the latest is, we see a couple of guards right there. Let's bring into the conversation 7 Steve Cooper. He's live, Coop, I believe, where they're going to hold this press conference later on today. And you've been working your sources and developing information. It has been rock solid, so tell us what you know now. All right.
Well, again, our latest information this afternoon is, despite the earlier reports, there has been no arrest yet, according to a high-level law enforcement source here in Boston. There has been no arrest yet in connection with the marathon bombings on Monday afternoon, and it's probably worth noting that.
And Steve, stand by there. Just want to welcome everyone back. If you're just joining us now, Reed Lamberty joining Amanda Grace here on the desk as we continue to cover what has been quite chaotic here in the last hour or so. We're getting conflicting reports of a suspect being arrested. But, Steve, you just mentioned from a high-level police source there where you are awaiting a news conference from investigators that there, in fact, has been no arrest. The federal courthouse has been evacuated under a code red. Steve, we'll check back with you here in just a moment. But first, let's get in with Brendan Gano. He joins us outside the courthouse. Brendan, what can you tell us what happened here just, about 5 minutes ago?
Yeah, actually, within the last couple of minutes, Reed, they keep pushing us back. We were right on the sidewalk next to the courthouse. Most of the members of the media, I mean, it's got to be hundreds, if not more than 1,000 people here. They then pushed us across the street to the other sidewalk, and then they actually now are pushing us farther back in the parking lot. A few minutes ago, we saw a few dozen employees leaving. They told me they were just told to leave, and they said they were under a code red. And then just a minute, probably a minute after that, or just a minute ago, you could see some, I don't know if you can see the black truck and the Boston police. They brought in some canine units that have been sniffing kind of the area right in front of the federal courthouse. That activity seems to be slowing down, but they came in pretty quickly. Again, though, otherwise, everyone is just waiting on this possible suspect that we believe is going to be brought here into the courthouse, and they seem just to be doing security sweeps and again, pushing everyone farther and farther back. We did saw a few dozen employees, like I said, were leaving. They were told they were under code red. I asked them, well, what does the code red mean? And they just say, it means the worst. We really don't know, but that's what they told. That's what they told us and asked us to leave. So you could see the media to the right across the street from the federal courthouse. That's where everyone is gathered now. Again, we've been pushed farther and farther back, everyone waiting for this possible suspect here to show up in front of the federal courthouse. So that's kind of the activity where it stands right now, Reed.
Let me jump in here. Grace on May Day. Any right prior to that evacuation or right now?
Brandon,
I'm sorry. I was about to say I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, no, Brandon, we're having difficulty here on our end here. What the man was asking, a code red, was there any indication of a police presence just prior to them announcing the code red? And then has there been an increase in police presence since you've been moved across the street?
Well, there's certainly been a heavy police presence the entire time that we've been here. The increased police presence was really just the 3 units that you can see right in front of the house, kind of in that middle area in between the street before the sidewalk across the street. There's 2 trucks and a white Boston police truck that had the K9 units in. So they came in pretty quickly and started to sweep the front of the courthouse. So there wasn't a presence, but there was already the police presence here in front of the courthouse. In fact, now we can see some ladder trucks from the Boston Fire Department showing up. But just a huge scene. You've got all these media, you've got people across the street, even got people on the bridge into the city, just to see what is going on here. Most of it is the media, but some of it is
3 sentences we got. It says no arrests and nobody being brought to court. I'm assuming that might be in regards to the Boston Marathon suspect. Yes. We're getting conflicting reports that yes, there was an made. Then we heard there was not an arrest made. There was someone in custody. Then they don't know if there's, So Boston Police, Mass State Police, Justice Department saying that there has been no arrest. But John, yes, as you mentioned, you alluded to earlier, it does appear that this is a bomb threat that happened at the courthouse, but apparently it's unrelated to what's happening in the last couple of days here in our city.
Yeah, perhaps, although maybe there's some connection. Maybe people saw images on television of a lot of people at the courthouse, and they thought, gee, this would be a good time to call one in. Who knows how closely it's connected? There may be some connection. It doesn't seem that it's a complete disconnect, that we would have hundreds of people outside the courthouse and a lot of activity inside, and then all of a sudden have a bomb threat. So I don't think this is a normal occurrence here. I've been here many, many times for the Whitey Bulger case and other cases, and this is the first time I've ever heard a loudspeaker with code red, and I wouldn't say it was panicky, but there were people hustling out. I mean, there were several people jogging. The marshals, I was right by the marshal's office as I turned the corner, and a guy came up very quickly and said, you gotta go. So that's how it was in there. It was urgent. It was orderly, but it was urgent, and some people were definitely hustling.
So, John, we've got to assume if this was a bomb threat, there's got to be some folks going in there right now, perhaps with K9 units, just to check out to see, if there is, in fact, a bomb in that building. Have you been seeing anything like that?
I have not seen any dogs, although there may be dogs inside. It's a big building, and I've been working different sides of it. I did see a caravan of cruisers and Boston Police pull up, and it would not surprise me one bit if there were explosives, weapon-sniffing dogs in that building right now during a sweep. I mean, I don't know how specific the threat is. If it did not give a location, they're going to have to sweep this whole building, 9 floors of it, including the U.S. Attorney's office up on the top. That's a long time. That's going to take a lot of work. There's also been somewhat an external threat in the Schwartz case, that young man that committed suicide, and the U.S. Attorney had some negative reaction on that case from some of the supporters of this hacker, that eventually killed himself as he was being prosecuted by the U.S. Attorney. So that's another thing that's out there in the atmosphere.
All right, Jonathan Hall joining us on the phone at the federal courthouse. John, thank you for giving us that updated information. Check back with you in a bit. In the meantime, we want to go back outside now. Different part of the city, the Back Bay. 7's Tim Caputo is joining us live now with more. Tim?
Good afternoon, Reed. We are on Boylston Street right now where the forensics experts are back out on the scene. I want to take you there. It's about 2 blocks away, so you'll have to squint a little bit to see it off in the distance. They're all wearing their white suits right now. To give you a gauge on where they are, the kind of post in the middle is right at the finish line of the marathon. They're on the right side of the street, at least from where we're standing, which is the side of the street where that first bomb exploded. They have been out here the better part of the day, kind of sweeping the broad area in the several blocks surrounding where this happened, and now it appears they are specifically looking at that area where that first bomb exploded. I want to show you some video of them a little bit earlier as they did that sweep, kind of like a search and rescue, where they went shoulder to shoulder, starting where we are, kind of on Berkeley Street, walking down Boylston, searching the ground for any potential evidence in this area. They did that about noontime today. It took them a long time. They did it nice and slowly, as the FBI officials said. They are working methodically out here. They have certainly recovered evidence in the 48 hours since this attack. One thing we can tell you is that they have recovered several key pieces of evidence so far. Certain sorts potentially used as a for. We also believe at this point the bomb was a makeshift bomb, a bit of a pressure cooker filled with shrapnel, nails and BBs and sorts of ball bearings, metal projectiles that would shoot out into the crowd. That was recovered, and we were actually told by, CNN was told by some sources with the federal investigation that the lid of that pressure cooker was actually found on the rooftop of a building here on Boylston Street. And of course, they found a kind of nylon backpack. They believe that that pressure cooker was put inside that backpack and placed on the ground before it was detonated. I want to take you back out here live now. I mentioned that the lid of that pressure cooker was found on the rooftop of a building. That gives you a sense of potentially the power of that blast, beyond obviously all the injuries. And for you, this little number 2 cone behind me, they picked up just about 3 hours ago, and we are about 2.5 blocks away from the closest explosion. That was the first explosion. Somewhat near Ring Road, piece of metal. It was maybe only this big, a little kind of almost looked like the end of a nail. You really couldn't make it out. Whether or not it was directly related to either of the explosives is unknown at this point, but we do know the FBI took it in as evidence, and it certainly will be processed. And you come past the barriers here, and you'll see off to my right here a lot of people outside right now, kind of gathered around this makeshift memorial. People have been bringing flowers here for the last 2 days, since this opened up yesterday afternoon, rather. So you see the makeshift memorial has been growing in size over the last 24 hours, and we've seen kind of an influx of people here, especially over the last hour or two, as word is starting to spread that they have identified a suspect in this case. They are hanging flags. People are praying here. They are signing some signs here, taking photos as well. So, you know, as the crowd continues to come in to take photos, to see things for themselves, the scene behind me is it looks like it did 2 days ago. They haven't pulled up any of the signs, any of the barriers that were there, but the forensics teams continues to work.